Okay. So you picked up super short notes, because I'm just gonna show you what a series is. But these are really easy. And then this is the absolute last new thing that we're gonna cover, sadly, before the end of the semester. So do you remember last time on Friday we learned sequences? And sequences are a list of numbers that follow a particular pattern or function rule. Okay, and so remember that the sequence might have been like 5n plus 2. And then you plug in 1, then 2, then 3, then get each of your numbers. You remember that? Okay, so a series is almost the same, but at the end, you're going to add up all of the numbers. Yeah, well, don't do it in plastic. You'll get cancer. Do it. Oh, I'm gonna. Well, no, you're not supposed to microwave in plastic. Okay? It gives carcinogens, which could increase your chance.
Which can, yes.
You won't like automatically get cancer, but increases your chances.
Are you gonna tell them about your second option? If you weren't gonna do math, you would do science.
I do have a pencil. There should be one in that little can by the calculators. Okay. And then I would just do like a minute. Okay, so take a look at the first one. You'll notice this weird signal or symbol. This is called a sigma. The bottom number is going to be your start value. The top number is going to be your stop value. And then this right here is going to be your function rule. Okay. So you're going to start plugging in the bottom number into the function rule. And then you're going to go all the way till you hit whatever your stop value is. So for the first one, what is my start number? I equals what? 1. And what's my stop number? I'm going to plug in all the numbers from 1 to 6. Where am I plugging into? 3i minus 1 is my formula. So let's do 1 first. What is 3 times 1 minus 1? How's that going to come out? 3 times 1 is 3. Take away 1 is 2. Okay, now we're plugging in 2. 3 times 2 is 6. Minus 1 is 5. Bye, baby. Love you.
Mom.
Love you so much, Ashy Poo. Okay, 3 times 3 is 9 minus 1 is 8. Sorry, I forgot I'm embarrassing. Okay, next number, what are we plugging in? 4. 3 times 4 would be 12. Take away 1 is 11. Okay, then I'm going to move over just so I have a little more room. 3 times 5 is 15. Take away 1 is 14. 3 times 6 minus 1 would be 18. Take away 1, which is 17. Do I plug in 7? No, I hit my stop number. What was my stop number? 6. Then this symbol right here, this little sigma, that means you're going to add up the numbers you generated from your list. So for my sum, I would do 2 plus 5 plus 8 plus 11, 14, and 17. And that will be your answer. So it's extremely similar to what we did last class. You just have to, if it's that summation symbol, you have to add those. So in your calculator, will you do that, please? 2 plus 5 plus 8 plus 5. Yeah, I got 57. Okay. Let's just do maybe one more. Okay, one more. What is my start number for the second example? 1. What's my stop number? And what's my formula? I squared. So I'm going to do 1 squared is equal to 1. 2 squared is 4, 3 squared is 9, 4 squared is 5 squared is. Do I keep going to 6? No, because I hit my stop number. Okay, then I'm gonna take all those numbers, add them up, and that would be your total summation. So it'd be 1 plus 4 plus 9 plus 16 plus 25. Okay, so your answer comes out to 55. Okay, then I'm gonna show you if your sequence, if your stop number was like further back, obviously this could still be really annoying. There's actually a button for this already in your calculator. So if you'll hit the math button. Okay, and then I want you to scroll all the way down until you get to option 0. You see where it says summation? Okay, pick that. And then instead of using an I, which is the math convention, you pick the letter I, you're gonna use an X. Your calculator only really gets X. So I would do X from 1 to 5 of X squared. And you'll notice that you get that exact same answer. Okay, so you can just put these in the calculator, that's fine. Questions on that? Okay. So if you will please switch over to your test review. Okay, you do not have an assignment on series just because they're so easy. So here's what the plan is. We are gonna do the review together right now. It won't take very long. And then you are going to do your test just in class today because it's very short. So the goal is, and you'll get to work with the people at your table. So if you decide you want to move around later, I know, because I'm so nice.
Oh, you're so sweet.
And also because we might be having this baby at any time. You may not have time for that correction. The boy. But I don't want you to not be able to do test correction, so I'm giving you a partner instead. Okay. Yeah, after Christmas break, but hopefully we made it. January at least, probably. But I'll be back before the end of the third quarter. So it could to finalize grades. All right, so let's take a look at your review. Okay, listen, your test has a question exactly like every question on the review. So even though it looks really long, it's because I left a lot of space. All that's on this is growth and decay, your financial formulas, and then sequences and series. Okay, so let's look at number 1. Here's your formula. Okay, it says the half-life of a certain substance is 20 days. There are 18 grams in the sample. Which of those numbers, 20 or 18, will be the C?
18.
Okay, very good. The C should be the starting amount, which is 18. So it says your starting equation is y equals 18e to the kt. Then it says use the half-life to find your K value. So what is my half-life? How long? How long? 20 days. So what that means is that it's going to take it 20 days to cut in half. How much did I start with? What would half of that be then? 9. So I'm going to put the time it takes for the amount to cut in half. So if I started with 18, half of that would be dropping to 9. So let's now solve for your K. So my 9 is going to go in as the amount. 18e to the K times T, which is 20 days. And then we're solving. Does anyone happen to remember the first step? Yep, get rid of that 18, divide it across. And what is 9 divided by 18? Okay, 1/2 or 0.5. Now I have e to the K times 20. Does anybody remember how we would rewrite the K times 20? 20K. 20K, because it's the same thing.
Giving us 20K. Oh, yeah.
Okay, then from there, how do we get rid of the E? What kind of log? It's a special? ln. The ln and the E are gonna cross out. So I have 20K equals whatever the ln is of 0.5. So you put that in your calculator. Remember that ln is very close to 4 on your calculator. And it should come out negative. Okay, so I got negative 0.693. And if that equals 20K, what do I still have to do? Divide that by 20. So I got negative 0.034 followed by a 6. So divide by 20, divide by 20. Negative 0.034. Okay, I won't take off for rounding, but just go to like through them. Okay. Now, quick question. Does it make sense that your K came out to be a negative value? Yes, because is this a growth or a decay model? Decay, radioactive decay, right? So it's getting smaller each time. That's how it ends up cutting in half eventually. Okay, part C. Use your model to determine the amount of the sample left at the end of day 45. Then I'm going to go back to my model. And I'm going to go ahead and take that K and I'm going to plug it in. So instead of 18E to the KT where we don't know what it is, now we know. So it should be 18E to the negative 0.0346 T. Okay, this is now your generic model that you can do whatever you want with, but I want to know how much at the end of day 45. Where would I plug that in? To the T. Okay, and you get to use the review. So I'm gonna make a little note, you're plugging that in for your T. So in the calculator, I'm gonna put Y equals 18E to the negative 0.0346 times 45. Okay, will you go ahead and just type that in for me? Remember, E is on your second divide by button. And then remember, when you're pulling that number, pull the exact value. Okay, try not to cut your numbers off in your calculator. So I have 18E to the exact negative 0.03 blah, blah, blah times 45. So I got 3.784. And that would be grams left over. Okay. You should be able to plug in a value for T, very easy using the calculator, but you should also be able to plug in a value for Y. So look at the next part. It says use your model to determine when there will be 1.9 grams left. Grams needs to go here. So I'm going to put right here for my 1.9 grams, I need to plug that in not to T, but for what letter? Into the Y of the equation. So instead of a Y equals, I'm going to put 1.9 equals 18E to the negative 0.0346 T. And notice I'm leaving my T generic because I don't know how long it's going to take. That's what we're trying to solve for. Okay, how do we solve it? Very similar to solving for K. Step 1, what do? Divide that 18 out of the way. 1.9 divided by 18 is something. Okay, it is 0.105 equal to E to the negative 0.0346 T. What is my next step? ln on both sides, very good. ln and E are going to cross out. So I have negative 0.0346 T equals. And then you're going to type in the ln of 0.105, but make sure you use the long decimal. Don't use the little short one. So ln here, 1.105 or 0.10555. It comes out to negative 2.248. And then what's my last step to solve for t? Divide. So negative 0.0346 is gonna divide across. And then when we divide that, let's see what we get. This divide by this. Okay, I got 64.878. Okay, really, that would round to 64.879. And that would be the number of days that it would take to drop to that amount. Okay, questions on that? All right, go ahead and turn the page when you're ready. And like I said, your test follows the same pattern. So as we're writing down little hints and stuff, maybe try to put them so that you have a good review to use while you're working, okay? All right, next page, you have two financial formulas. The first one is PE to the RT, which is exactly the same as CE to the KT. So the one that you're actually gonna see on your test is the second one, because I wanted your test to be short. And I'll already know if you know how to do the top one based on the science exam. Take a look at number 2. Says a $2,500 investment earns 4.5 interest compounded quarterly. What letter will the 2,500 be in the equation? PRNT, which one? That's the P. What about the 4.5% interest? R. And then what about the quarterly? What letter is that? N. And how many quarters are there in a year? 4. Very good. So I'm gonna do A equals. My principal is 2,500. 1 plus. Now for the R, can I just use 4.5? We have to turn it into a decimal by moving that decimal 2 spots over. So it's gonna be move it once, twice, 0.045 in the equation. Okay, divide by how many times a year? 4, and then up to the 4t, which in this case is how many years? 10. Okay, and then notice that all your stuff is on the same side of the equation, then just put it in the calculator. Okay, so go ahead and do that now, please. You should get a number that is bigger than 2,500, because their investment should have been growing. Thank you. So 2,500, 1 plus 0.45 over 4 up to the 4 times 10. Okay, I got 3910. Is that what we all got? Yeah. Okay, then since it's money, we'll just keep 2 decimals, so it'd be 0.94 cents. Okay, part B. Use your model, so exact same scenario, to determine the amount of time that it would take for it to double. Okay, so if it needs to double, how much am I starting with? 2,500. Then how much would doubling be? 5,000. And that's gonna go in as my A. What letter am I gonna be looking for if it says determine the amount of time we're solving for our T? So my A equals is 5,000. 2,500, 1 plus 0.045 over 4 to the 4t. But notice my t is an unknown now. Okay, let's review the steps to solve this, because I know we learned this last week. Step number 1, you're gonna take this part only, and you're gonna turn it into a decimal. Okay, all the rest of the equation is gonna stay the same. So the 5,000 is gonna stay over here. 2,500 is gonna stay in the front. 4t is gonna stay here, but you wanna take that 1 plus number and turn that into a decimal. So let's do that first. 1 plus 0.045 over 4. Okay, it comes out to 1.01125. Now we're ready to solve. How do I get rid of the 2,500 in the front? What is 5,000 divided by 2,500? 2 is correct. And then if I'm trying to solve for t, I have a big 1.01125 base. How do I get rid of a big 1.01125? Log little 1.01125. Okay, versus on the other page, this was an E, I got rid of it with an ln. But if it's a decimal, you just log little on that same decimal. Do we remember where that button is? Okay, very good. So my 4t is gonna come down because I got rid of the big decimal base. And then remember, this is just going into the calculator. So I'll remind you, the buttons on that is alpha window and then option 5 for log base. I'm gonna steal the 1.01125 of 2. I got 61.959. Last step. That equals 4t, so I need to divide that by 4. So it would come out to about 15 years. Okay. Divide by 4, divide by 4. T equals 15.489. And I rounded that wrong, but oh well, just pretend. We'll throw an 8 on the end. That would be in years. Questions on that? All right. Example 3, Mary invests into a savings account in 2015 that has an interest rate of 2.5%. Now I made this in a hurry, so I want you to add compounded. And we're gonna say quarterly. Then it says in 2022, she withdraws 6,200 from the account. How much was the initial investment? Did they give me the A or the P for the money? They gave you the after. At the end, this is how much she pulled out. I want to know how much was the initial. That would be your P. So I'm going to put 6,200 equals. My principal, I don't know, so I'm going to leave that as a P. 1 plus. What is my interest rate written as a percent? 0.025. How many times will the account be compounded each year? Quarterly means 4. And then 4 times, how many years did she let the investment sit if she put the money in 2015 and she took it out in 2022? 7 years. Okay, let me remind you how to solve this one. Okay, your letter that you're looking for, it's not little, it's a regular P. And it's multiplied by all this crap. So all that you're gonna do is type this into the calculator. And then once you know that number that's multiplied with P, you'll just divide to get rid of it. Okay, but all of this can go into the calculator at one time. Okay, so I got 1.19, is that what y'all are getting? Okay, so I have 6,200 equals P times 1.1905. And if P is multiplied by a number and I'm trying to solve, how do I get rid of that number? I'll take that number and divide on both sides. So you'll put over 1.1905 over 1.1905. Okay, remember when you're doing the math in your calculator, use that full decimal, don't shorten. So it'll be 6,200 divided by this guy. So her initial investment must have been $5,207.47. Okay? Questions on that? All right, last little bit of this is just the sequences and theories that we just learned. So if you'll turn the page, let me remind you how to do that. There are two types of sequences that we looked at. Does anybody remember what patterns are considered arithmetic? It's either plus, minus, times, or divide. Plus, minus patterns. And then geometric would be multiplication and division patterns. So take a look at your first list of numbers. It goes from 3 to 8 to 13 to 18. What's the pattern? Plus 5. Okay, and it has to be the same every time. So it's always plus 5. We call that the common difference is plus 5. Then you're gonna use your A sub n formula to write a function rule for that list. So A sub n is any term that I want. I'm gonna start with A sub 1, which is the first term. What's the first number in the sequence? 3 plus 5 to the n minus 1. Does anybody remember why we have to use n minus 1?
So you can't mix it up.
So that very first number, you don't add up any 5s yet. So you want to start with 3 and you're going to add 5 each time, but not the first time, okay? Okay, then the next question says, okay, find the 20th term in the sequence. Then all you have to do is take that 20, pop it in right there. So it would be 3 plus 5 times 20 minus 1. So you're basically saying my first term is a 3, and then I'm gonna add 5 19 times. But not on the first one, because you don't want to include it for that. So 3 plus 5, 20 minus 1, what value are we getting for that? 98. Okay, if you want to extend the sequence all the way out to the 20th term, this is the number that you should get. Okay, but obviously that would be more annoying, but you could do it. Okay, one more like that. Number 5. Can you look for the pattern, please? 27 turns into 9. Yep, then 3, then 1, then a third. This is a divide by 3 pattern. Now, for my common ratio, I can't put divide by 3. I have to use a fraction. What fraction is the same as dividing by 3? 1/3. Now let's write our function rule. Remember though, I want to use the one for geometric sequences, which is right here. Because this was a multiply pattern, not an add subtract pattern. So I'm going to put my A1 in the front. That refers to my first term, which is what number? 27 is my A1. Then I'm going to put 1/3 up to the n minus 1. And remember, the n minus 1 is what protects that first term from changing and being divided by 3. Okay, then it asks you to find the 10th term in the sequence. So I would just plug in a 10 to that. Your other option would be to start with 27 and divide by 3 till you get to the 10th next term. You know what I mean? Okay, go ahead and put that in. It's a kind of small decimal, I think. 27 1/3 up to the 10 minus 1. 0.0013. 0.0013. Is that what y'all got? Okay, then the last one, will you just practice typing it in? Okay, you do not have to do it by hand on your test. You should know how to do it, but just put it in your. How do we pull up the summation? Math, go down to 0 is your summation. I don't have an I. What do I use instead? X. So it'd be X from 1 to 6 on the pattern 4x plus 5. Okay, and remember, that would be starting with 1, plugging in until you get to 6, and then calculating the total sum of that sequence. So I got 114. All good with that? Okay, as I pass out your test, okay, you may switch groups, I don't care at all. You wanna work by yourself, I'm totally fine with that, but everyone turns in their own test. What does not happen is that, you know, one person does all the work and then the person next to them just copies. If I see that, I'm making you work by yourself. That's not the point of this. The point is to catch our mistakes and work together so that we all have a good grade. Okay, the other thing is that you may not split the test in half and say, I'll do 1 through 5, you do 6 through 10, and then copy, I'll split you up and you'll work alone. Okay, good? All right, you can do it. I'm not gonna take off for rounding, but just kind of do what we've done in class. Okay, and obviously you can talk, that's why you're in a group of people that's down. Yes. Okay, do the first part, and then if you need help with that part, let me know what that is. Okay. Yeah. Melanie, you can. You don't have the rest of the class. Yeah. You can use your review, and if you wanna pull out your notes. But the review should be sufficient.
That's like a big group. So it would be 25 equals.
Can you go there?
And then take.
Huh? Do you have a class period?
You just have like that.
Are you doing what we just said on wall or stuff? I would do this. But, the other option is next month. Yeah. I would like you to just do that instead, and then do. Because we have 3 days.
Ellen.
So we're gonna kind of break it up into 3 parts, but if you wanted to do that, or
-2693.
that we wouldn't have to. So just make sure you have to review them. You're good? Y'all doing okay?
I don't know what to round to, so I'm just gonna do it. So.
Daniel, you wanna switch over to the group?
What did you?
Y'all doing okay over here? Alright, oh, and I have this notes for you.
How many decimals do you want to round into?
Go to like 2 or 3, it's fine. But it says. keep
That really is
it,
that
so
way.
just go over to that. Okay.
I got -0.0. It's your model. I don't know what it's called.
Is it 3
Or 4.
2 or 3?
Oh.
If it's money, go to 2, anything else. you can. As long as you're close, we're just gonna let it run.
Yeah, 0.4.
These are not.
Model 2.
You're so we doing good in here, good, okay? Amir, did I give you a paper from Friday?
Did it put in date?
Yeah, you negative. Going to 0.6. Yeah.
I was like, one of those.
And then I think I sent you the video. Okay.
We did 31.5.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
It's 490.
On the calculator, and then when you get to the end, you're gonna obviously.
And then I think it's. free.
But when you're doing the calculations, keep the long decimal.
So 22.
They would need,
Yeah. Shorter,
Yes.
and it's to round down, like if it's 462. So what was it, divide by 8?
Just do -0.046. And if you keep the two, that's fine.
I was thinking about.